we're going to spend too much of our lives doing a 4-letter word, work. The best hack is to turn it into a 3-letter word, which is fun. It's hard to have fun on a Zoom call. My entire 20s was just a bunch of experimentation. I literally can remember thinking, I don't think I've done anything in my life up to this point as well as I could. I'm in a really fun business because I'm right in the middle of 2 really cool things, giving and receiving. I got my degree in broadcast journalism to tee me up for when I played pro ball. And then I was going to go do Monday Night Football because my dad did Monday Night Football like twice. And he's like, this isn't really for me. And I'm like, what do you mean it's not for you? That's the coolest thing ever. And so I was going to go do what, all the stuff he didn't do. And, somewhere along the line, I forgot that you have to actually be really good. And you have to be able to go pro and play. I'm going to have to pay him for a therapy session when we're done here.
Hey everybody, welcome back to The Blueprint. It's Brandon with the Smoking Gun. Today we've got Bob Lilly Jr., entrepreneur, man in charge of swag. He's going to tell us everything he's got. But if you could just do one thing, hit that subscribe button. You really help us kind of push getting more of these videos out to the public. So really appreciate that. If I give me your support, appreciate it. Hey Bob, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
Brandon, you're welcome. Happy to be here, man.
Yeah. It's so fun. Like I met you through a mutual friend, Ed. Appreciate you being here.
Shout out, Ed.
But I met you through a mutual friend, and he was like, "You're really going to like this guy. Check this guy out, or whatever." And he did not lie. You are one really unique individual that's just a caring person about everyone that you kind of seem to, gravitate towards. So,
well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
it's nice to hear.
Yeah. Well, honestly, like that's I really mean that. Like it's been really cool to kind of meet you and see the personality that comes with that. I mean, you come from a pretty prestigious family in this town, and you could see someone that has that skin on the wall to be a different type of human being, and you're not. So I appreciate that.
Well, thank you. Yeah. So my dad, you kind of allude to the fact that being Bob Lilly Jr. means there must be a senior running around, and senior. If you go on the Wayback Machine, was the first draft choice the Cowboys ever had, and played 14 years for those guys. But my dad was from humble beginnings in a small town in West Texas. Didn't have a ton of money. He grew up working hard for everything he got, and he instilled those values into me and my brothers and sisters. And so I realized that I probably get things that I don't deserve, maybe because I'm junior. But I realize I'm not entitled to those things. I got to earn them every day by being the best version of myself that I can be, and hopefully giving back to others, and just realizing that we're not guaranteed or promised or deserving of anything in life. We have all of us. Some of us are more blessed than others initially, but at the end of the day, our life is based on the choices that we make every day, and just trying to make good choices.
Yeah. Was it difficult on you growing up with that name? I mean, it can be a blessing, absolutely. Like, there's doors that'll open up for you, and there's opportunities that'll happen because of that. But or the exposure that you get. But was there a weight as well?
There was, but I don't think I was really focused on it at the time. I was just living life and doing my thing, and frankly, it's like erosion. I mean, when you're born with a thing, and every day is just another day, you have no yin and yang to compare it to. So it just was. In several times in my life, I've been able to take a time out and be introspective about those kinds of things, and I can see that it was a double-edged sword. But I'm a glass half full, or maybe more than half full. So I've never really looked at any of it as some burden that I had to carry. I think that sometimes you have friends that aren't really friends because of those types of things. You kind of have to wade through that. It might create a little bit of insecurity along the way, but for the most part, I just look at it as I was blessed to have an incredibly great dad, who I respect and love, and that's the bottom line. I also have described it in the past as being sort of Disneyland-esque, in that the highs were really high and the lows were really low. And there's a lot of people that had a lot worse off than I will ever think about. But just having a dad that is such a great guy, and he's your hero, and then sharing him with the rest of the world. That would probably be the part that sucked the most, was just my dad, having been from humble beginnings and not from any kind of affluency at all. Once he got notoriety and started to become a commodity that people wanted to do commercials or do appearances or, go be the keynote speaker at this event, he kind of jumped at that. I mean, he really hated to say no.
Yeah.
So there was a large part of, my childhood and even into, my teenage years where dad was constantly on the move doing things. And I constantly wanted to be hanging out with him, and doing all the things that we like to do. So I guess that would have been kind of the biggest bummer of it, was that piece. But at the end of the day, the good far outweighed the bad.
Yeah. I can see that for sure. The expectations of you, being
this, that, or the other.
Yeah. Like, hey, you come out, you're going to be Bob Lilly part 2, right?
Well, the probably the biggest thing there was that I loved sports, and was just an avid, a football player. I loved football from the minute that I got one in my hands. I ended up playing at the same college my dad went to, which probably in retrospect, I mean, I love TCU, and my son's going to go there now, and we're really excited about that. But, I went there, and there was a lot of comparisons, and I was completely naive. I was like, yeah, whatever, dude, I'm me, and I'm going to go, and this, I'm going to, it's going to be great. I'm going to have an incredible career. And frankly, I got my degree in broadcast journalism to tee me up for when I played pro ball. And then I was going to go do Monday Night Football, because my dad did Monday Night Football like twice. And he's like, this isn't really for me. And I'm like, what do you mean it's not for you? That's the coolest thing ever. And so I was going to go do what, all the stuff he didn't do. And, somewhere along the line, I forgot that you have to actually be really good, and you have to be able to go pro and play.
Yeah.
And I played, but it was mostly off the field. I had a really good time at TCU, got a degree in broadcast journalism, met a lot of great friends, and had a bunch of fun. I'm not sure that I maximized my athletic career. I had enough DNA and talent that had I been singularly focused at that time in my life, and frankly, I wasn't mature enough to really even understand. And even if I had understood, I just wasn't there yet. It wasn't going to happen. I partied too much, I played too much, and it affected my ability to do really well. And also, I was probably playing the wrong position, and there's a guy who played 9 years for the Jets in front of me who was, the epitome of a really great inside linebacker named Kyle Clifton. Shout out to you, Kyle, if you hear about this. But anyway, that was the scoop. There were some expectations, but I was pretty oblivious to that for the most part, I think. Kind of did my thing and tried, when I was out there in the weight room, on the field, I was giving 110%. There was no question about that. But for me to really exceed and excel, I was going to need to come early and stay late and do more. And I don't think I had that gear, that particular gear. I had the gear on the field to give. I mean, it didn't matter if practice was already over and we were going to run wind sprints for an hour. I was going to win every wind sprint. I mean, I was going to give you a lot of effort,
whatever you asked.
Yeah. And in the weight room, I was strong and had natural strength. And so I really worked hard in there as well. I don't think my work ethic was an issue once you're at the dance, but when you're not at the dance, then it was like, hey, I'm my own guy, and I'm going to, burn the candle at both ends. And, I was undersized, and I think part of that running around, just, I wasn't really able to get as big as I needed to get. Not to belabor the point on that, but that was definitely one time when I recall those expectations. Otherwise, if my dad's genuinely thought of as a very stand-up person, and just a real humble and good guy. And, I don't think, people, I don't know what the expectations for me would be, as far as who he is today.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that. I think the biggest compare and contrast that I've experienced in my life has really been more along the athletics, and that was kind of over back in the day. It did cause me to be a little hyper competitive, even after football was over. So I've taken up other sports like golf and tennis, and really like to play those. And in both of those sports, I can look back at time periods and realize, man, you were trying to get your identity. Why do you think you have to be the guy? But I kind of approached it like, I need to be the guy, and maybe that's tied into that whole Bob Lilly's kid. He did all this. What are you doing? So and some of that maybe I just put on me too. So who knows?
Internalized
I'm gonna have
pressure.
to pay him for a therapy session when we're done here.
Well, no, that's the reality behind it. Is like, there can be true expectations. And the reason I tell the story from the beginning like this is because these things shape us as human beings. They cause us to have drive, or they cause us to make decisions, or want to be more, or feel like we're less, right? And so those things really kind of feed into who is Bob Lilly Jr., at the end of the day, and why has he devoted himself to making this business what it is today?
Sure.
So.
Well, that's a good point. I already alluded to the fact that I probably didn't maximize my opportunity in college from an educational standpoint or sports. And I will say those two things drove me. I had a lot of jobs and various sort of career moves from in my 20s and really up until 30 years old. Yeah. And I would kind of figure out the game, whether it was insurance or, and I had some great bosses and some great opportunities. I really did. But I hadn't figured out who I was and what really motivated me. And so when I was 30, I met my wife, who I've been married to now for 27 years. And we were dating. We had an extended courtship, if you will. And throughout that period, there was just a lot of, I felt like a phoenix. I felt like the 20s, really my entire 20s was just a bunch of experimentation. And then I really hadn't ever done anything. I literally can remember thinking, I don't think I've done anything in my life up to this point as well as I could. I don't think I've ever been the best that I possibly could at any single thing. And it kind of pissed me off. It kind of lit a fire under me, and I was like, okay, I'm 30 and it's time during this next chapter to reinvent myself and to find something that I can do the very best that I'm capable of doing at for an extended period of time and just see what happens. And so I interviewed with a lot of different places. I looked in the broadcasting world, since I had a degree in that. I looked in various sales channels and verticals, and then finally, maybe divine providence stepped in, and I'm definitely a believer, and that's a big part of our family and my dad's the upbringing that he had and also gave us. But at some point, actually my wife and I were in a Sunday school class, and it wasn't a church we went to regularly. It was one that we were trying to figure out where we wanted to plant ourselves. Yeah. And weren't quite married yet. I think we were still dating. And I met a guy. He had really good energy. He was a real sharp guy. And I said, what do you do? And he told me, I'm in promotional advertising. And I said, well, tell me about that. And he did. And I said, wow, that sounds really interesting. I've been immersed in that my whole life, one way or the other. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. But I never really knew there was an industry around it. I didn't know where that stuff came from. And I said, are you guys hiring? And he said, well, here's my card. Call my dad. It's his company. And I was working there like 4 weeks later. And that was one of those deals where, in the first 12 months of me being there, I sold right at $1 million worth of merchandise and different programs, and was having the time of my life. Absolutely fell in love with it. And when I look back now, I realize this was the perfect industry for me, because every relationship that I'd ever had in a business context or even friendships, etc., was in play as far as they worked for a company, an entity, a team, a nonprofit. They worked for some entity that was already buying things that I sold.
Right.
And so the barrier to entry was relatively low, and the amount of contacts that I already had, my wife had a bunch of contacts and was more than happy to introduce me. And I'm in a business, guys. I'm in promotional merchandising, and we have an agency for 26 years. We've had it. And I always tell people I'm in a really fun business because I'm right in the middle of two really cool things, giving and receiving, right? And if it's done well and if it's done thoughtfully, it can be incredibly powerful. Marketing and media, and whether it's digital, billboard, signage, print, TV, radio, it's all powerful. It can all move the needle.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about something that's been curated for a very specific purpose, for a very specific person, and they're gonna touch that, they're gonna wear that. I mean, how many TV commercials can you wear? None.
Yeah.
Can't wear them. Can't wear radio. Can't wear internet. But you can wear a hoodie, a promotional item, a hat. I mean, I look around the room and we're all wearing something that's branded every day. And I bet you guys right now can look on your desk or on your person and find 5 promotional items. And so it is really powerful. And I really fell in love with the business and started off with a bang. Within a year and a half, I was 50% of the company I was working for as revenue. And the son and I, that I'd met in Sunday school a few years before, decided to try to see if we could buy his dad out. And it didn't work out. It's like the Garth Brooks song, sometimes the unanswered prayers are the best ones.
Yeah.
So I really wanted that to work. But I ended up going out on my own. And I remember hugging a handshake to Mike Sanders, who's my boss in this industry. He and his wife, Diane, had started their firm 20 years before. And I didn't know at the time that my wife and I were about to start this company together. I thought it was just me. She had a great job working for some radio stations, The Wolf and The Ticket and The Zone. She was working for Susquehanna Radio back in the day and doing great, had a management job, 6 figures. And we certainly weren't thinking about, hey, let's take all of our eggs and put them in one basket. But that is indeed what happened. She's got her MBA from Kellogg and went to Northwestern undergrad and grad, super smart girl, helped me put our business plan together. And then she came home one day crying. She's like, I'm just done. And I'm like, all right, we're doing this together. And I said, but here's our motto: failure is not an option, because we have all of our eggs in one basket at this point. But we had a very good, clean delineation of labor, of what I would do and what she would do. I would do the sales and a lot of the leadership, and she would kind of do the HR and the finance. And that model still exists to this day. We're still married, and we still work together after all these years. So
that's amazing. When you start to think about promotional items, I'm sure from the get, probably even from the cradle, you've got promotional items all over the place, and so
you nailed it, dude. 100%. And that was the realization that I had years later, right? I didn't have that at first, but I started looking back and realized I was sauteed. I was marinated in promotional merch.
Yeah.
I'm quite sure I have pictures of me in a Dallas Cowboy onesie somewhere.
Yeah.
And little beanie helmets and this and that, but tons of stuff in my house. Stuff people would hand make and deliver and give to my dad as gifts, and then just cowboy swag. So we were inundated with that. It was awesome. Still bleed, Cowboys blue and silver, but, not as much to cheer about in recent years, but we're hopeful. We're ever hopeful. But, the next one really, my dad retired from the Dallas Cowboys and was lucky enough to win the opportunity to start a Coors franchise, in Waco, Texas, when Coors was just, this is back in the 70s, Smokey and the Bandit, right? You had to go to Colorado to get, Coors, and so we had one of the first distributors in Texas, and it was in Waco, Texas. And so we packed up the family and we moved from Dallas to Waco in the middle of 7th grade. And I worked at, from when I was probably 13 or so, up to 18, I worked at the distributorship every summer and had the world's worst jobs out there and learned what I did not want to do.
Yeah. And what was that? Let's talk about that for a minute.
Yeah. So the worst job that I've ever had was working in the Coors recycling department in Waco, Texas. And that consisted of it's out in a chain link fenced up area on a blacktop with a semi trailer. And there's a very large, extremely loud machine that literally crushes cans and shoots them into the back of a semi. So in hearing protection, what hearing protection? We didn't even know. So I'm out there and I'm in polyester long pants with a polyester shirt on because we had to wear the company uniform. They didn't make me wear a tie, at least. And I'm sitting out there and it's 104 degrees in the summer. It's maybe 120 on the blacktop. And people would bring in their bags of cans and I would weigh them and then I would pay them. We'd paid silver dollars and I would pay them. And then I would put these cans in the machine. But the deal is that some of the places that brought them in horse trailers and they were bars, and these bars to fill up a horse trailer with bags of cans. Yeah. I mean, we're talking that stuff had to be sitting around for months
for a minute.
And it was nasty. Yeah. It was the nastiest thing you've ever seen in your life. And I had this white, Coors dress shirt on. And it was like, imagine a big tubular A-frame that's like 7 feet tall. And there's these scales hanging off of it with these, just huge fish hooks. And you have to reach up there. So it was a great exercise because some of these bags were weighing 80 pounds. Yeah. So you're just launching that up there and then you got to launch it off. So it's on you. It is touching your body. You are nasty and filthy. And critters, snakes, spiders, all different kinds of things. And then the hopper where you had to put the cans in to, be crushed and blown was probably 5 or 6. It was at least 5 feet tall. Yeah. So you're having to, again, wield those heavy bags. So that was a really terrible job. But one that gave me really good work ethic, got me in shape for football. And not one that I would wish though on anybody else.
So this was like dad putting work ethic on you and saying, hey, look, you're going to work.
My cushy part of the job was cleaning toilets and mopping and sweeping. That was the easy breezy
in the AC.
Yeah, in the AC. Happy to do it. Another piece of that too, which was kind of fun, was so Coors had, we had temperature controlled vaults where the beer was because it had to stay like just above freezing to be optimal. And so we had rail cars that would bring in the product and sometimes they'd get bumped or even, tagged pretty hard and pallets might fall over. And so if there were bottles in there, every bottle had to be repackaged and the breakage had to be thrown away, but you couldn't have shards of glass or anything on bottles. So I was the bottle washer and that was all happening inside of a 34 degree vault. And then the cans, the same thing. So if they were bent more than, like an eighth of a millimeter, whatever, you had to toss them and we literally threw them away. I'm not sure they all got thrown away.
I was gonna say.
But that might be a theme for another story. But we might have found a new home for some of those.
Yeah, they were rehomed.
they were rehomed.
Let's go. So you went from working outside on the blacktop to 120 to washing cans in 34 degrees.
Yes.
So you had the extremes on both sides of this.
I did.
And Dad was like, "We're gonna put some hair on this guy's chest."
That's what he did. Yeah, it was great.
And so
great learning.
Did you grow up through that? Did you progress through that company at all?
No. That was pretty much always a summer job. And then I ended up, when I graduated, I literally dropped me off the day after graduation to TCU. And I started working out with the team in the weight room and I had some summer job up there. And I was just in college. I came home very few times, during my college career to Waco. I usually stayed in Fort Worth. My grandparents lived there. So I was there and I didn't go home a lot. I think Waco was happy for me to go and I was happy for me to go too. So, so I did not progress in that particular company, but, I did get a bird's eye view into my dad and his psychology and the division of labor that he had with him and his partner. and I knew them very well. And his partner was a guy named Don Kaler, who was almost like a godfather to me.
Mm-hmm.
My actual godfather is a guy named George Andre. He was my dad's roommate and teammate for 10 years with the Cowboys. But Don was very, very close to our family as well, and we love him and his family. He's since passed, but just a great man. But he kind of did all the financial stuff and a lot of the operational stuff. And my dad was more motivational, did the PR, kind of, lined out the sales crew and their mentality. He was up there at 4:00 in the morning when they would be revving up the engines to hit their day. And then he would hit the restaurants, bars, and clubs at night, at least several nights a week to kind of go in and do PR and just sort of, find the managers, the owners, and thank them for the business, buy them some beers. And which ultimately became a little bit of a problem for him because he enjoyed doing that. It was a necessary thing to do and it was kind of fun, but being that he was who he was, he tried to buy them beers and they'd want to buy him beers. And then that 30-minute conversation, thanks a lot. I'm going to hit the door and go down to hit the next one. Became a 4-hour. They wanted to know all about him and become friends. And my dad got into a routine that probably wasn't that healthy for him. And ultimately, interestingly, my dad kind of came to a place in his life where he had everything. It happened twice. He had everything that he'd ever wanted in business, and they were making money, and it was going to continue to be that way. And it was a legacy type situation. And I mean, people would kill. I mean, it was incredibly competitive to get this. And I can only equate it to another story that he tells, which was winning the Super Bowl. They had lost the Super Bowl and or the championship game like multiple years in a row. Cowboys in the late 60s and 70s had this moniker of being the bridesmaid and never the bride. And they finally won in 1971. They won the Super Bowl. And my dad said, they partied and they went out and everything. And then the next morning they had to go back and get on the buses to go to the airport. And the next day it was so eerily quiet. It was overcast. There was trash and garbage from the game hitting them, blowing by them as they were stepping over it and through it to get on the bus. And my dad was empty. And he's like, this is what I've spent my entire life of sports. This is the pinnacle. This is the biggest thing that I will ever achieve in this sport. And I feel empty. And I've heard him say that before. And then kind of, he came to a very similar conclusion, at some point with this course distributorship. And he said, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. He's literally given his testimony maybe thousands of times and said, really, I felt like I'd been given a gift and I was a role model for young people. And he said he felt that, there's nothing wrong with having a beer and does not have an issue with that. But being a role model for young people, was he contributing to underage drinking? Was he contributing in as a persona that maybe he shouldn't have been? And that was his decision to make, right? And it was not one that I was happy for him to make, because I did think that I was going to, come back and go to work in the family business. And I knew that really beer distributorships are kind of a license to print money. But my dad ended up selling the business, and he ended up kind of having a revitalized relationship with the Lord, and really sunk his teeth into that for the rest of his life. And he's pretty much been a speaker and done card shows since. I mean, he's not really been an entrepreneur since then. But seeing my dad in those sales meetings with the men and how he got them fired up, listening to the stories around my dinner table about the work ethic and why people failed and why people succeeded in his company when they had to let people go, it was always, he's not a guy that really enjoys doing that. But he absolutely did it if it was necessary, and if you weren't living up to their core values. And so that was all sinking into my DNA. And even though until I was about 30, I was kind of sabotaging my career in some ways or another. I always had that DNA in me, and I I knew what kind of work ethic that it took, in sports.
Yeah.
I knew that I had succeeded in sports and I'd also failed in sports. And I knew what the people that succeeded where I didn't, what they were doing. I knew that extra, what an extra mile looked like.
Yeah.
And I also saw it from my dad and his work ethic and building a company from like literally scratch into a multi-million-dollar business and how much he poured into it. So all of that was being poured into me as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's funny. Like I hear you say, what he showed you and drove you to and the things that he impressed upon you throughout your life. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I also hear you say he wasn't around for a lot of things because I was sharing him with a lot of people too.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think the push and the pressure to prove yourself in some of these moments, my business is going well, I've made it to TCU, I want to succeed, I want to do those things. Do you think that was literally like, I want to show my dad that I'm there too, or I'm this, or I'm that?
Yeah. Probably. Definitely some of that. Definitely some of, I think every man wants to be as good or better than dad.
Yeah.
If you're lucky enough to have one, that's worthy of that goal,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody's not. But anyway, I definitely have felt I think a healthy competition within me,
Mm-hmm.
Utilizing him as kind of my gold standard.
Yeah.
Because that's the one I grew up with and that's who I wanted to be like.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that to some degree it's still there. There's still a strand of that DNA that's still kicking to this day.
Mm-hmm.
But we have a fabulous relationship. And this is not a forum where I get into, like everything. We're going to mostly keep it business and some life. But I will just say, that I did run really hard in my 20s and during college and in post college. And I drank too much. I partied too much. And I think part of it was really trying to discover my identity.
Outside the shadow.
Really, who am I?
Yeah.
Not Bob Lilly Jr.
Right.
But who's Robert Louis Lilly Jr.? Who is he? In a vacuum by himself when the lights are off and there's nobody that, without any influence from dad or whatever. And it's impossible not to have the influences of our parents and in our experiences. But not only, who am I, but who would I like to be? Who am I aspirationally? And so I was struggling with that, I think, for a number of years, but I was very, very blessed and very lucky to have been put into a situation where I could address it. Yeah. And I did do that. And again, it's not the day or the forum to really get in deep on that, but that process was very cathartic for me. It did enable me to let go of a lot of negative weight that I didn't even realize that I'd been carrying around. And I let that go. And I changed my habits. I changed my friend group. I changed everything really that I could. And I met a fantastic woman that really has been a great soulmate. And I joke and tell people I outkicked my coverage, and I did. And I think anybody that's married a great gal would probably say the same thing. But that all of that kind of culminated at a time where I was in a place where I could listen. I was ready to listen. I was ready to admit failures. I was ready to and open to something new. And then that was right at the time point where I met the guy that I mentioned already and got into this business. So everything, and then looking back, those things, going through the highs and the lows, the digging the holes that I dug myself into and then figuring out a way to get out of them, that has created who I am today and gives me a special perspective. I think I have empathy, deep empathy for people. I love people. And I'm a big second chance guy because I feel like I was given one. And so I tend to be very liberal with opportunities and second chances and wanting to take risks on people that may think they don't deserve one, or maybe other people won't think they deserve one, but sometimes I'll have a feeling, or I'll see something in somebody, and I want to go out on a limb and help them along in their career. But I just feel like, our failures and our successes, you hear people say, my failures don't define me. No, not necessarily, but how you overcame them,
right?
It could,
yeah,
right, in a positive way, because every single one of us, every single human being has got their stories. They've got stuff that they're not going to talk about on the podcast,
yeah,
but it happened, and it was there, and you either don't own it and you don't deal with it, and you curl up in a ball and you don't really progress emotionally, or you don't progress beyond that point, or you own it and you say, yep, I did that. This happened, whether it's unlucky, unfortunate, whatever it was. And you say, but I'm not going to allow the negative part of that to define me. I'm going to allow my positive reaction to this. How am I going to react to it? Because every single person's going to have really good things and really bad things that are going to happen in their lives. And the difference between men and women who are at this level, or this level in any perspective of their life is how they reacted and responded to those data points.
Yeah. Well, I'll just say this, and I'll move on from that part of it. The reason I dug into that is because this whole show is about people finding their phoenix, their rising, their turning point of what was to what is and what becomes, right?
Yep.
And so even though we have a certain trajectory in our life and what we see our life as being and what it's going to be by someone's standards or by what we're told, and we end up getting to a path where it just doesn't work out for us and we take a different one, and sometimes it ends up being amazing, right? So everybody kind of goes through this journey of who am I and what am I supposed to be and have I lived up and whatever standard they're in. We all go through that journey, and so I appreciate you being open and honest about that whole scenario. So after you, we'll talk about the true, salvation for you, which was that woman of yours that pulled you out of the fire, just like mine did. But the real thing is, like, when we find somebody that gives us perspective and just change of direction, or kind of just is there for our support with us nonstop, right? Those are the things that I started to notice with my own family, that was like, okay, cool. Now it's like, it's no more about just getting some things done. This is about us building blocks for the future, right? Which led you, like you said, when both of you went off and, hey, we're going to, get married. We had a courtship. Now we're going to start this business. What were the first steps to start this business? Because there's a lot of people out there that are like, man, I've done some of these things. I've tried to get it off the ground. I can't get it going. I don't know where to go with this. I know you talked about the relationships and everything being key for your business, but how did you start? Where did you go? What was...
Well, for me, and it's not unique, but it kind of, everybody has their own nuances. So for me, I'd been successful now with the company for 3 years in the space. They were a small business. I learned a ton of things that I loved about the business, and I learned some things that I really wanted to emulate in the way that that particular family ran their business. But I also learned a lot of things that frustrated me. And I thought, man, I might be able to build a better mousetrap than that. And this is back in the 1990s, right? And email was just now becoming a thing. Texting wasn't even, nobody was texting yet.
Right.
And I brought the first computer in the office, brought a laptop in there and a printer. And they were literally typing up orders on a typewriter with multi-parted deals. And if we had a mistake, they were whiting it out and starting over. And we weren't emailing high resolution art yet. We were still FedExing, slicks and this is dark ages type stuff. So I really felt like technology was going to be a cornerstone of whatever I did. And, once I realized that we weren't going to move forward with a partnership, I started parallel tracking things. So I came up with a brand first. I came up with the logo because I feel like that's the core, that's the nucleus of your brand DNA. And then I think the website is the next iteration of being core to your brand DNA as well. So started working on a website and then a little bit of collateral. And then I started talking to some of my clients and I said, hey, thinking about starting my own business and in this field. And if I do, if you want to stay, put 100% okay, but I'm just kind of floating a trial balloon by, would you give me a chance? And I said, I'll either succeed or fail. And if I succeed, you'll get the same service or better than we're having right now. And if I fail, I'll end up back there and you'll have status quo. In any event, I think you're going to be okay. And, I didn't talk to 100% of my clients, but I talked to a handful, and the consensus was we work with you. We don't really work with your company. We don't even know anybody from your company. That was very eye-opening for me too, by the way. And also set a trajectory for how we run our current, our business now. Because I want people to do business with their reps, but I also want them to feel like they do business with the company.
Right.
I've had reps that get out of the industry. What happens if, what happens to that customer if the rep gets out of the business or they retire or whatever, and they don't know any of us? I mean, it's just not a good scenario. So anyway, the first steps were branding and marketing and figuring out that. Second of all, just making sure that there was a market that, that when I hit go, and then I hit go and about 80% of my business came with me and about 20% stayed. My boss, he hit them all. He hit all, and I was totally okay with it because I get it, business is business. And so, but they stayed, and I was very involved in the community, and I networked consistently and a lot. And
what does that mean, networked?
Well, for me, it was, I volunteered for some boards. I volunteered for nonprofit oriented stuff. I got involved in some Sunday school classes. I not so I could do business really, but any time that multiple people are getting together and meeting, getting to know each other, things are going to happen, right? Relationships are going to be created, and if they trust you, I always feel like trust is what smooths the skids for being able to do really good business together. I think it's the first thing that has to be there. And so getting to know people and appreciating them and their authenticity and just trusting that they're going to do what they say. So I wanted to be that guy. I was that guy. I am that guy. And that is 100% what I'm about and what our company is about. If things don't go exactly the way that I wanted them to, if an order gets offline, if we somehow let someone down, it literally causes me anxiety and to not be able to sleep. And I feel that my reputation is on the line, that my family name is on the line, and that I'm letting people down, and I'm not doing. And we do thousands of transactions a month. So there's the good news is that the overwhelming majority of everything that we do goes off without a hitch. But it's it's all dated. We've got, it's event driven. Things have to get there. And one of our goals is to make our buyers heroes, right? Because they've got this job to do in their company, and they've partnered with us to help them get it done. And I want to make them look fantastic. And so we're really committed to doing that. But kind of back to, how do we build it? Again, we had that delineation of job responsibilities, and Julie did a fantastic job on the financial side. And initially, we hired a couple people. We incubated inside of an ad agency and cross-pollinated leads with them. I was in part of a group called the Dallas All Sports Association, and we had a great awards banquet and recognized key athletes and sports people, sports figures, owners, et cetera, for the city of Dallas and Fort Worth and really the Metroplex for a number of years. I was on that board, got to meet a lot of companies, a lot of folks, great folks. And so that was that was one of the ways that really kind of kickstarted things as well. Some of my early clients were AT&T and Baylor Healthcare, which is now Baylor Scott and White. And to name a few, Atmos Energy came along in year 2, and they've been a fantastic client for many, many, many years, and just absolutely love all the companies that we've supported, over the years. But that's kind of how we did it. Just slowly grew it. Added one person at a time. We tried a few family members. I will tell you, it's hard enough being a co-owner with your wife. It's very hard. But then we started adding on other family members, and the dynamics are very subtle but very difficult because you can't turn that off. It's never going to be just business. There's always that family relationship tie in there, and it's really hard to meet everyone's expectations at all those levels. So we pretty much only have me and my wife now after trying that, and we had some great employees who we were related to that did an unbelievable job for us. I think really every single one of them did a fantastic job for us, but sometimes the expectations just were not congruent. So we had to learn a few lessons the hard way on that.
Yeah. When it comes to building your business as well, you said you went through, groups that you'd signed up with and meeting people organically and things like that. As people are trying to build their business, are any suggestions for them of like, hey man, it's best if you email, or if you cold call, or if you do whatever? Like, have you found things that really work and things that really don't work in that?
So I now can admit that I don't know what I don't know. And we are in the dawn of a new era, and we are in the dawn of the era of artificial intelligence. And I'm getting on up there and trying to stay relevant and trying to make sure that I'm one of those people who embraces the technology that we have available to us. So it is really utterly amazing what you can do with ChatGPT, and probably some of the others, but Chat's the one that I'm predominantly using, to understand your marketplace, to understand and ask questions like what you just asked me. You can literally ask it. Here's a tip, and probably more than half of you already know this and could write a thesis on it, but you really want to tell ChatGPT who it is before you ask it questions. Now you can ask it questions and it'll go out and get you some answers. It's almost better than Google now. It probably is better. There's no ads yet. But if you give it the filter, for instance, if you have a legal issue and you tell it that it is a high-powered attorney, that it is an expert in the field of law that your question is around, if you tell it that, then when it goes out and researches everything about this thing that you're going to ask it the question of, it's going to do it from the perspective of, the first thing it's going to do is go, what is a high-powered attorney in this particular field? Let me read everything I can about that. What does that look like? Oh, okay. So it thinks I'm this. All right. Now it's going to go out and get you your answer based on that filter. And that filter is very powerful. And there's people that make $150,000, $250,000 a year right now that literally they just author these queries.
Right, prompts.
Yeah, pick it out. So I would say, do that. For me, this is early 90s, or kind of mid and late 90s into the early 2000s. We're starting this business and really getting it going. And I dealt with people. Mine is not a digital commodity or entity that I'm selling. I sold natural gas. It's invisible. It's odorless. It's also not that exciting, but you can make a lot of money doing it. So from that perspective, it's very exciting. But this is some tangible. So I felt like I needed to meet people. And I don't think in today's day and age that you necessarily have to get in front of people as much as you used to. I think good business can be done over Zoom. I've seen us do it. We've pivoted, back during the pandemic and did tons of business without really ever having met some clients. I will say some of those really great relationships deteriorated. And I think they deteriorated specifically because we did not have a personal relationship with those people. We had never sat down. We'd never broken bread. We'd never had a meal. We didn't know anything about their kids. We were missing that piece. And frankly, we're going to spend too much of our lives doing a 4-letter word, work. The best hack is to turn it into a 3-letter word, which is fun. And it's hard to have fun on a Zoom call. It's much more. It's much easier to have fun during a lunch where you're laughing and you're hugging, high five, whatever it is. It's just that personal connection. That's how I roll. May not be how you roll. And I'm not going to say that there aren't many, many ways to be successful out there. So I'm not going to try to, speak as the pontiff on this particular subject. I'll just tell you, for me, I wanted to be on committees. I wanted to be in networking groups. I wanted to go where people were and where you could form relationships based on things, that you both liked to do, whatever that was. And I think that's how trust is created. Because if somebody's, we'll just take a nonprofit, let's say you're going to go donate your time and build a house. Everybody that's there is already like 10 steps ahead of becoming your friend, because you've all already checked the box of, we care about other people more than ourselves. We want to help people less fortunate than ourselves. We are donating our time, which is anyone's most valuable asset. We are, just keep going down the box. So find things that you're passionate about and share your talents and your resources in those endeavors. And it's kind of like karma. Relationships are going to happen and they're going to flourish and they're going to turn into business opportunities. But as far as having a marketing plan, that's where I kind of got into the ChatGPT thing. It's like you have a socioeconomic demographic that you're trying to go after if in your business, whatever your business is if you're in advertising, you're going to go after a certain type of clientele. You're going to have an expertise, in quick serve, or you're going to have an expertise, or maybe you want to be, if you want to be kind of a generalist, great. Then you're a generalist and you're going to have a demographic that's going to be small businesses, small cap, up to, $100 million companies, right? If you're going to be a generalist, I don't know if you're going to go after Fortune 50 companies, because those guys want to hire very laser focused experts in their field. And so, you have to understand the market that you're going after. I think that personal touch is something that we're getting away from as a society. And I would just encourage you not to be afraid to roll up your sleeves and get where people are and to tell your story. I think networking still works. There are still great networking groups out there where literally your purpose is to talk about your business and listen to them about their business, get to know them as people, what drives and motivates them. And when you find that spark of trust, there's your person. You found your person that you, and if they're not a customer, they probably know people that are, especially if they're successful in what they do. So that's, a little bit of the secret sauce, I guess, if I have any.
Yeah. I think that's great. Honestly, it's a perspective that, I haven't heard a lot from that seat right there. I talk to a lot of business people, and all of them talk about scale. How do you scale yourself? How do you scale? The direction that you're talking about at this moment sounds like a slower growth pattern, but a more solid business model. Like, it may take longer to grow by using word of mouth and getting in groups and making a personal touch with every single person. But those are more long-term, clients, right? As opposed to who can I churn and burn on and get somebody in. And if that doesn't work, there's another one behind them. Yep. Like, that is a very volatile type of a company model. Based upon yours seems more foundational.
Well, it is where I was led. This is what I was supposed to do. And I found it when I was supposed to find it. And it was part of the building blocks that helped. We talked about the Phoenix, when it was time for me to reinvent myself. So that's why I started with, hey, there are a lot of different ways. And and when you talk, I am not a great scaler of business. I'll tell you that. I'm not a serial entrepreneur. I do not have dozens of companies under my belt. What works for me is maybe not for everybody, but if anything that I've said resonates with you, then maybe it's for you. My business is hovered around $7 to $10 million in sales for 26 years. We had a ramp, and then that ramp was very consistent, double-digit growth, probably the first 10 years. And then really the next 10 years, it was kind of, we've weathered lots of things like, 9/11, Y2K, the Great Recession, the pandemic, a lot of things. I've seen wars and rumors of wars and viruses and all kinds of crazy things. And we've kind of pivoted and dipped and done what we've done. But this business has been an incredible ride for me. And when I look back at what made me the happiest, it's the long-term relationships that I've created. It isn't about the money. I think money is a byproduct of doing something that you're passionate about and that you love and doing it really well. And I have more money than I need. I don't need another. I don't think that if you put another zero after my net worth, that I would be a happier person. I'd have more stuff, and I'd probably go to some different vacation spots. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't be any happier at all.
Yeah.
And because I'm going to have to spend a lot of time with the people that I work with and the people that I work for, I want that time to matter. And I want it to have meant something, and so, yeah, I mean, just from a wins and losses and like scorecard, I'd love to figure out the secret sauce, and maybe you and I'll, sit down one time and share about some ways we can do that together. But, I would love to, I'd love to figure out a way to, at this plateau that I'm at now, is there a way to pierce that and take this thing to, my 26-year-old company to another level that I haven't achieved before, that's sustainable? Because I'm not interested in getting there just to fizzle out, just to, go out in a blaze of glory, or realize I'm tired and burned out and I'm stressed out. I don't really want to do this. I think we'll just sell it and I'll get, I'll get a bunch of money.
Right.
Not that I'm against having a bunch of money or selling out, but this company has been very good for me. And you might find that in your journey as an entrepreneur and starting your business, that frankly, you like it. And I like the daily grind. I like every day when I go to the office, it's like Christmas. I don't know what opportunity is going to be waiting. I don't know what problem that that me and my company and my team might be asked to solve. Merch is going to be a part of it, but also packaging, logistics. Where are we going to source it? How's it going to be delivered? How many units per bundle? Are we going to do a custom? There's just so many things that scratch kind of the itch that I finally figured out is me. This is the industry I'm supposed to be in. Find your industry and then serve the people that you serve, both internally, your employees. Because if you've got great employees and they're happy, then you're going to have great clients who are going to be happy too. If you've got disgruntled employees or they're less than what the market is would tolerate, then you're not going to be around that long. I don't care what kind of magic you utilize, it'll blow up at some point. There has to be some substance there.
That's a great transition. I was going to ask you next. Well, the secret sauce really is the employees. At the end of the day, there's the relationships that bring a business in, but the employees and what they do and their dependability, right? How do you go about choosing the type of employees that fit with your model?
Yeah. Well, we've been utilizing an online, a company that does an online personality test for a number of years. And it was specifically tailored to our industry and already had multiple, before I got on it, it had multiple years of data from successful people in my industry. So now, anytime that we're going to hire somebody, it's a 30-minute deal, and it's very great. And frankly, I don't always follow it to the letter of the law. Sometimes I take a flyer and think, this person was just barely out here and they were over here, which wasn't in range, but I actually like that quality. So I've kind of played around with it a little bit, but that has been unusually accurate for us. And so that's one way that we do it. And then, we try to have a multi-touch interview process where, they get to see us, we get to see them, they get to come into our environment. In some cases, we've even let people to ghost ride for a week or two, because what I don't want to do is waste their time.
Sure.
Because people are valuable and their time is valuable, and I don't want to waste mine either. So we'll do whatever it takes to kind of figure out whether for them it's going to be a fit. Because I'll be honest, a lot of people there's a lot of ways to go about marketing merch. And I've had people that were incredibly math minded and math oriented. And there are buyers out there, strategic buyers who are in purchasing, or they're COOs, and their love language is numbers, right? And when you paint a problem in a numerical format for them, they get it.
Yeah.
And when you show them how you're going to solve that problem in a numerical format, they get it and they love it and they buy it. Other people are more tangible. They want to touch it and feel it and sleep with it. And, oh, I just like the gear, and you guys have good gear and y'all are so creative. And it's just different love languages and really understanding it. So I think for our business, there's a lot of different people that can be successful in different ways. There's some people who are really, really good at selling products. I'm not really inclined to sell products, because now I have to go convince you that this is the coolest product that you need. I like to sell solutions. So I like to ask really good questions and figure out, what needles do you specifically, the person that I'm sitting with, because right now you're the most important person in the world to me, because we're with you and we're talking, and how do I help move a needle for you to your boss or to your boss's boss? Now, what needles need to be moved in your company? What are your initiatives this year? What are your new things? Where are you guys struggling? Is it employee retention? Is it this? Is it that? When you kind of narrow that down, now we start talking about some specific ideas and programs. And when I say program, again, that's got logistical components to it. It's got pricing components. Yes, it has merch, and that merch is going to have packaging. And are we going to go overseas? Or are we going to go domestic? And that's all dictated on timelines. But you really it's all a unique Rubik's Cube, every problem. As you can just tell by this way I get passionate about this is what gets me up every morning. It is not going to sell a mug, whether it's Yeti or a plastic solo cup. I don't care. I'm not fired up to go sell that. I'm fired up to help you. Let's talk through what's the biggest single thing that we can solve for you right now. Maybe an upcoming event. Maybe putting uniforms on your people. Maybe that, I want to recognize my people more, and we really want to indoctrinate our values into our company. And I want my people to be able to know in an instant what our values are, and that let that be their lens for how they operate their business on a daily basis. I mean, what company wouldn't want that, right? And it's just a matter of whether you're ready to solve that one or not right now. But we help companies a lot with that. Recognition, the recognition piece. And some of it is just ideas that we give them, and they get to go implement it for free on their own dime and time. And some of it might be things that we can sell them that will augment that, like awards and recognition items and things like that. So, I don't know if that answered the question. But.
Yeah, no, I think it's cool that you're delivering things that make people proud of the moment that they hand something to someone, or they give this thing away and it has their brand on it specifically. And they can be proud of those gifts, right? It's not just, hey, what's the cheapest tchotchke that I can get somebody just to kind of look over here? But it's like, what moment will make this person smile when they deliver? Like, this is truly a gift. This is truly something I'm proud of mine to give to you, right? And for you to share that moment with someone to say, I supplied you with a thing that made you smile, as opposed to, I'm a little embarrassed that I had to kind of, do this one, right? And that's a big difference between, I think a lot of people try to grab some things off the shelf. I've never heard the perspective that you just said there, but people think, what's something I can get here that's of value, that's not going to break my bank?
Right.
But if you say it the other way, it's like, what makes me happy that I gave to you because it has my name on it and I'm giving it to you as a gift because it feels substantial, right?
Right. And like yesterday, I was with one of my employees, and we went to a client's open house, and they've got a new building, and they've invested millions of dollars in this new place, and they're very proud of it. We had a lot of opportunity to work with them on the new location, also on their recognition program, and they recognize their employees, and they also recognize their vendors. And they had all their vendors there, and they had a wonderful ceremony where they recognized their top 5 vendors and gave them awards and brought them up and let them talk about the relationship and introduce that team. That is part of that. That is basically, when you can sit down with someone and say, okay, what do you want to, where do you want to move the needle? Well, we really want to substantiate and have a memorable scenario for our top suppliers, because we can't go to market. We can't do what we do without our top suppliers.
Right.
And so this is one of those deals where, and I'm not going to say that, we sat down and invented this whole thing. This was their idea, and they've already been recognizing their suppliers for a while. And we were very, pleased to be able to kind of upgrade and take their award, the actual award that they presented, into something that was substantial.
Yeah.
And those people could feel it, and it had weight to it, and it was cool looking and
display worthy.
Kind of had definitely display worthy, but also kind of had some DNA of the brand story that and Cisco Eagle was the client. And so that's just to give you an example that, when we do that, a lot of times it has nothing to do with necessarily, it could be client facing, but a lot of times it's employee facing. One of the biggest, fastest growing areas for us is new hire kits, for every business entity. If you're hiring young people today, those young people are going to make decisions very quickly about whether or not they trust you as a company and want to be there long term. And I think that most young people are fairly skeptical that they're going to be anywhere very long. And so when you can take somebody that has been, hopefully, coached in a manner where they've been given a lot of personal value and they've been reinforced with a lot of personal value, I think the people with that mentality want to feel like they made the right choice. Because if you got a great employee, they probably had choices, right? And if they had choices, they would love to know on day one that they made the right one. So when you have a very well thought out, creative, fun, informative, and useful box full, or it could be backpack, whatever, with goodies that they're going to utilize at their desk. They're going to take one or two of them home and get a kick out of it with their friends on Instagram. They're going to, whatever. That's a win, and the problem is, like with new hire kits, is that usually there's a champion. It's usually a female champion, not always, but guys, I think we could do this if they'd let us. But usually there's a gal that has championed this in her company, and she has understood the relevance and value of having a kit. She's reached out to vendor or vendors, and they have put it together, and she's got a swag closet where it stays. And then when she is moved up in the company or goes somewhere else to another company, all that tribal knowledge about how she did it, how long it took, well, I can't tie a bow like that, and that all walks out the door. And it's amazing how many companies, and that sounds like a small company problem, but you would not believe how many 100 million, 200, 500 billion dollar companies do not do a good job of having a consistent, well thought out new hire kit. And we just got through talking about earlier that, it's the employees. If we keep our employees happy and if we keep those guys satisfied, then we'll have a much easier chance of keeping our customers happy and satisfied. So this is kind of, foundational, I think. And so what we do is we put up portals, so that HR managers or location managers can easily order their kits. We take it out of the swag closet because that stuff has a way of getting lost or growing feet and walking away. And now it's in our warehouse. And now, it's all, you got business intelligence, you got reporting, the COO's happy, the CFO's happy because they know, how much they're spending on this kind of stuff. And we just try to take something that can be complicated and messy, and we try to give it the easy button. And so that's one of the areas that I think we've really seen a lot of interest, and we've grown a ton. And then putting up those portals is really great because that's like Field of Dreams. If we build it, they will come. Well, if we build it, you guys will use it. And if you use it, we'll show you how to use it more because it's like an onion. You can just keep layering skin around it of different things. So the technology, talked about that earlier, really has been an underlying theme in our business over the years. We continuously want to improve. I never want to rely on these words. We do it this way because we've always done it this way. Never say that. Never say that's, people say never say never. Well, never say that. I promise you, because technology is changing the world and the way we do business so quickly, and it has been for decades already, and it's just speeding up. That if you ever find yourself thinking that, or you're thinking anything similar to that, just notate that. That's a red flag. I need to address that issue right now.
Yeah, immediately.
Yeah. So
we talked about employees.
Yeah.
Vendors.
Mm-hmm.
Are you a relationship-based vendor? Are you looking to build something with someone and keep it with them for a long time? Or are you looking for best available product, or are you looking for best available price?
From my vendors / suppliers,
from your perspective.
So I'm a member of a group in our industry, in the promotional merchandising industry, that's been around for about 20 plus years, and it's made up of like 19, maybe 20 at this point, distributors, and one's in Mexico, one's in Canada, and the rest are kind of equally distributed around the U.S. And for the most part, we're kind of geographically mutually exclusive, although some of the larger ones have various offices. We play very well together for a group of like technically competitors. I think our gross sales last year together was like $500 million. And so pretty substantial. That'd be like the fourth largest company in our industry. We have a very defined preferred supplier base, and it is made up of, and we have a supplier task force. And these are vetted, very well-known players in our industry. And we are very intentional as a group about maintaining that relationship. It's a contractual relationship, but it's very relational as well. We have multiple events per year where those folks are invited. We do team building. We do all kinds of fun, goofy stuff with our suppliers, and distributors and suppliers end up on teams together, and we're competing, and it's utter nonsense, but so much fun, and really has built very meaningful relationships. Our industry is messy. It is in a continual state of, roll up and buyouts and mergers and this and that. But anybody that's been in it more than a minute will tell you that the greatest single thing about our industry is the people. And it's really the people on both sides. It's just a fun, eclectic, unique group of people that really care about each other. We can't do what we do without our suppliers, and they can't do what they do without the distributors. So we are married. Yeah. And knowing that you have vetted, very top quality suppliers, it's great. We get good rebates, but our rebates are really based on us spending a lot of money with them. And so
volume plays.
Yeah. So our group, the group that I'm talking about, we have a lot of optics on how much we're spending individually and as a group with each one of these. So we're trying to put our money where our mouth is. We're not trying to wield this big stick and demand this and that. Right. Yes, we want a lot. We would want a high level of service, but we know that there's a price to pay for that. Right. And loyalty is one of the main building blocks of that. So I need somebody. Life's what happens while you're busy making other plans. And in our industry, there's it's a lot of event driven stuff that has to be there on time. It's got to be correct. The name's got to be right. The dollar amounts have to be, if you've got engraving on there, there's just a lot of moving parts and pieces that can go wrong. And so, our clients sometimes will call us and say, "Hey, my boss just dropped this in my lap. We're going to be competing, in a charity golf tournament. We're going to need 150 Bluetooth radios, and we need them Friday." Yeah. And you're like, "Well, I don't know if you checked, but today's Tuesday." Yeah. And it's like they need a miracle. Yeah. And so we have partners that will deliver us miracles. Yeah. And then there's the other end of the spectrum where, everybody checked all the boxes. We proved, we did whatever, but somehow, some way, something wasn't correct. Maybe UPS hit a snag and the stuff's not going to get there, and it's like, it's not my fault. Yeah. But I'm going to take responsibility here, and we're going to figure out a workaround. And so, figuring out that workaround sometimes means that's not coming. Yeah. We'll deal with that later, and we'll dissect it, and we will solve that problem later. But you have an event, and that stuff's not going to be there. Yeah. So let's get you something in your hands. and then we'll figure out that. And then when you call that vendor, whatever that vendor happens to be, you're going to be asking for a miracle. And so to us, it's a very relational situation. We try to know not only the in-house rep that we're dealing with, but we try to know who the regional, manager is, the vice president of sales. And the good news is, at least for our PeerNet group, our buying group, we know who really everybody all the way up to the CEO is. So we have points of escalation along the way. But I would say that's a good rule of thumb for anyone starting a business. And it works both for your supplier side and for your customer side. Is there's always the people that you deal with on a day in and day out basis. Right? You're the person you're selling to or the person that you're buying from. And you want to have a great relationship with them. It can't just be email. Yeah. You got to talk to them and know who they are and know what they're into and take the time to tell them when they do a good job. Or if they're buying, thank you so much for allowing us to serve you. You got to have that piece of it, I think, consistently. But you also have to know who their boss is on both sides. And you have to know who their boss's boss is. Because if that person leaves or they're sick or they're out and on the client side, if they leave, all of a sudden you're like, okay, well,
I got no connect there anymore.
No, I don't know anyone. I don't even know where to go. And you're in voicemail hell and you can't ever find anybody. So that's just not good. Yeah. And on the supplier side, it's like, well, hey, I'm that miracle thing that we always talk about. It's happening and I need help and you're on vacation for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So you really do have to know where the connectivity is on both sides of the food chain.
So through procurement, you don't have somebody on your team doing procurement. You're a part of this conglomerate, of this group that is using volume together to drive prices down, right? And so by the more dollars you spend as a unit, $500 million or whatever a year, you guys are able to get good prices. Not everybody's going to have that, but
that's true.
Smaller companies in general are going to normally go, hey, look, I've used Joe Blow down the street and they got me in at a low price and now they're working me up the longer I go, and next thing you know, I've got to jump over and use a different supplier and I don't really know how I'm working with them just yet. But you build these relationships until you start to find someone, and your long-term goal is to lock up one supplier. Is that what your goal is? Or is your goal to just continually work them against each other?
Oh, you know what? So first of all, there's the suppliers would love to be your one-stop shop.
Surely.
And they are constantly trying to add services and products to their lines so that they can be the one-stop shop. And we have some very, very good vendors and many of them that do more than $1 billion a year in sales. And they are legit, fantastic, unbelievable companies and have great employees, have great services and have great products. And we use them a lot. We spend a lot of money with them, but I don't like the idea of being down to one or two,
right?
Because I don't want to limit the arrows in my quiver. Yeah, we talked about, for me anyway, being a problem solver, right? And really teaching my staff that that is our stock and trade. If you want tchotchkes, if you want online swag, you can go to branders.com, you can go to 4Imprint, you can go to wherever you want to go and order your stuff. If you want to be responsible 100% for the outcome, sight unseen, because they're not going to come by and go, hey, check this sample out. You're not going to be able to have a live body, helping you sort through an issue. If your event is on Saturday and these, for whatever reason, get there, early AM delivery Saturday because UPS screwed up, there's nobody from 4Imprint that's gonna drive over to your event and help you pack this stuff out.
Right.
So that's the kind of vendor I would think that a client would be looking for, and that's also the kind of relationships that we're looking for from our suppliers, is people that will go the extra mile because they care about the outcome, about the customer experience. And so, anyway, that's tremendously important to us. And for me, I want to have more. I don't want to have hundreds of suppliers, but I want to have multiple key suppliers that have a very wide range. And then I want the freedom to be able to go way outside the box if I have a customer that needs something that's just not part of the beaten path. I mean, I'll go search stuff on the internet and just start a wholesale account with a new brand if they want that particular brand or, whatever. Right. Yeah. So I think it's important to to definitely have some supplier diversity. And by the way, in our industry, there's a lot of pencil sharpening on both sides. There's both pencil sharpening on the distributor to supplier side, and there's pencil sharpening on the customer to the distributor side. And I get it. And from time to time, you might have to do it if you're in a very price conscious situation, but that is not how I built long-term relationships.
Right.
Yeah. I don't feel like you're really going to get that long-term meaningful relationship with somebody who really is going to go the extra mile for you if you're constantly just
chewing on them.
Yeah. Chewing them up. And you gotta help me out. It's almost like you owe me, nobody, here's the price. We're doing good service. And so, we want a fair price for what we do, so we can continue to be an ongoing business concern, and we can continue to help you solve those problems that we team up with and do. And I want the same thing out of my guys. So I'm okay with my suppliers making a fair profit. If it's a very, very large order and the client has already told us what their range is, you may have to get more people involved. You may even have to go overseas. I don't like to circumvent our preferred supplier base. I mean, they're getting it from overseas too. I get that. And obviously if you skip that step, you're going to get it for less, but they are important to me. And I would rather 80-20 rule, 95-5 rule, I'd like to give them 95% of my business, but every once in a while you do have to go direct because you're just in a situation where there's too many eyeballs on this. It's a 6-figure plus project, and real price is really going to matter. And you do what you have to do. But I will say that I try to protect our industry and my supplier base, and we're very loyal. And I feel like that's karma. I know there's some hustlers out there that'll hustle and they'll scrape every single dime they can on every single transaction. That's just not my personality. I'm not saying, hey, I want to leave a lot of money on the table. I want to make smart deals, but there's more to life than a price point. There's more factors. And you live long enough and you do business long enough and you realize that, paying a fair market rate to get great service and peace of mind. Like I sleep pretty good at night because the vendors that I do go with and that I do pick, I'm going to be able to sell to my customer for a fair price, and my customer's happy. They're sleeping good too because they've hired me and they know that I'll take care of them if anything goes wrong. I sleep really well at night because I picked the guys that I picked, and so there's probably always somebody that'll do it cheaper or do it for less, or, I can go through 5 steps and bloody up the water, but it's just really not how I like to roll.
Yeah. What's the biggest struggle for BLP at the moment?
2025 has been an unusually difficult year. It's been tough. Twice in my career, we've had migrations of employees who decided they wanted to be somewhere else. So real candidly, we experienced that in 2024. And some of the folks had come during an acquisition, and they brought clients with them, and they took those clients with them. And I'm okay with that. That's life. That's just how business goes sometimes. I knew that 2025 would be challenging because we would have to make up a substantial amount of business. And so we started focusing middle of the year, about this time last year, on new business development. That new business development has generated some fantastic new clients, but not as many as we would have liked. And then I think there was uncertainty in the marketplace due to a contentious presidential election, wars and rumors of wars, tariffs. There's just been a lot, and the tariffs affect our industry quite a bit, and they affected some of our key customers quite a bit too. So we are not hitting the projections that I had for the company, and so that's challenging. I like to see growth every year, and I like to see profitability and not breaking even. I mean, I don't think anybody likes to do practice orders. So
practice orders.
We're really right now trying to spread the good news of BLP and who we are. in the marketplace, and looking for opportunities to serve new clients that, one thing I look at in down market times, people will start to challenge their assumptions.
Yeah.
And they will say, hey, you know what? I mean, while we're at it, let's just see if there's anybody else out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I like our chances in an environment like that, because we do land a lot of new business, and we already have.
Mm-hmm.
It's just ramping that new business up, because you're going to get a few test orders, and they're generally going to be small, and then you might just start in one department, but the overall account may be fantastic, maybe a multiple 6-figure account over time.
Mm-hmm.
But in the initial month or two or 6 months or whatever, it may be a few $1,000s a month, and it just
Mm-hmm.
keeps ramping. And so I'm just preaching to my team, especially my sales manager and new business development folks, that let's get it going.
Yeah.
So that's one challenge, and really trying to we talked about scalability, and I think there are companies out there that are doing a really great job of it, and they're utilizing technology to do it. Yep. They're utilizing SEO and
Mm-hmm.
Stuff that your company does really well. And I don't think our website is technologically where I want it to be. It's WordPress, and that's probably fine.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it could be optimized,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that we could explore some key search word optimization, and probably some pay-per-click as some strategies that we want to do. So I'm sure we'll be talking about that. I know we've had a few conversations going, but just focusing on our tech stack, because I really feel like the companies that get it, both AI and the technology aspect of their industry, and just managing a company and marketing your goods and services, companies that get it are going to grow, and the companies that don't are getting bought, or they're going to go away.
Right.
And remember my mantra with Julie back in the day: failure is not an option.
Failure is not an option. Yeah, no, growth mode is something that you really have to settle in for, because it
takes a minute.
It takes a minute, and it also takes some input to make it happen. It's like, you can't just turn on growth mode because you want to grow. Like, there's effort levels, there's costs that go with it. There's things that, you have to kind of change to say, man, we really want to start, taking off, and then dragging the business up with it, And so, that's cool to see that you're interested in, taking some of those steps, because they do work, and I'm thankful that you're, potentially talking to us about it. So,
yep.
But, I'm going to switch gears. I think we're getting close to the end here.
Okay.
So I'm going to switch gears for a minute. Just kind of scatter shoot some questions and stuff at you. I know that, with the competition, thing that you've gone through, your entire life. And, as you can see, that can kind of go into business as well and be competitive about that. But I know you've asked me to come out to your ranch. I went out there, what was that, a month or so ago? Yeah. I know that I noticed everything around your place. You had, almost competition stations, right? We had the cornhole section over here. We had the skeet shooting section back here. You had your game room, which had like shuffleboard and ping pong and whatnot, and
pool, darts, you name it.
Oh man, it's a beautiful place. Honestly, it's like really, really, really cool. And thank you for the invite out for that. But I noticed like every station I went over to, you were like, "Hey, you want to go? Let's go. Go. You want to push it, And so that was really fun for me, because I feel the same way. I didn't go to TCU, but I'm an athlete from the back in the day, and
a heck of a ping pong player, I might add, and darts and shuffleboard. I mean, I don't know if I won anything from this guy. He's amazing. That was fun.
But it is fun how like you see competition come out of something else. And then as we transition outside of that part of who we were, that bleeds into the rest of our life.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think you'll ever get rid of that competitive bug?
No, I don't want to.
Yeah.
I feel like it'll be there. And I feel like I have mellowed over the years.
Mm-hmm.
So, there was a time when I think that my competitive nature was could have been misconstrued as overbearing, a little bit. And I think there's just a time in a man's life where he's comfortable, and comfortable may not be the right word, but confident in the wins that he's got under his belt. confident with who he is as a person. You know, so I don't know that I'm quite as much of a maniac for, you know, like I enjoy the companionship and I enjoy competition, but I do not fixate on having to win everything like I used to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I want to do the best that I can.
Yeah.
But if somebody's better than me at something on this given day,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, you know, it's like seeing somebody do really well, you know, in their company. And we all know people that no matter how successful we are, there are people that are levels and levels above us.
Oh yeah.
And kind of my, you know, if you hang around with me more than 5 minutes and somebody's bought a new thing or a new house or new whatever, I'm like, you'll hear come out of my mouth, God bless America. I am legitimately happy for people to do well.
Yeah.
And if that's going to be my mentality, then it transcends over to even people that I'm in competition with.
Yeah.
You know, I want to win.
Yeah.
But if you've done any competition for 5 minutes, you know, you can't win everything.
Mm-hmm.
And if you try to win everything, you're going to be bloody and bruised and beat up.
Yeah.
And I've gotten to the point now where I can pat you on the back and say, hey buddy, awesome. You did great. I might want to go double or nothing, but even then it's going to be healthy, I think. So I think I'm in a healthier place now with my competition. But I still love competing and the joy that is competition in the moment before the battle has been decided. You know, we're in there together and we're testing each other's limits and we are having fun and the adrenaline is happening and we're laughing. I mean, that's joy to me. And so, no, I don't ever want to lose that.
Yeah, no, I think that's such a integral part of kind of the DNA of someone when they go through the fires of what those were. It's really hard to shut it off, you know? And I tell people all the time, like, I love to play golf. And I tell people all the time, like, you know, I'm not as competitive as I used to be. You know, I used to do travel tournaments and things like that. And it's like, you know, I'm not feeling it the same way like I used to be. I really like to get out now and have a few drinks out on the course with people and, you know, have the camaraderie with guys and do things like that. And I say that. And then the moment I step on the golf course, it's like, this thing comes over my face and it's like, I'm a different human being again. I'm just wondering like, and I know I've softened up as I've gotten older anyways too. But at the end of the day, I just don't know that will ever go away. I don't know. And I actually really enjoy it. And I hope I don't wear people thin, you know, when it comes to that point, you know, because it is, to me, it's healthy.
I mean, nobody gets to please all the people all the time.
Yeah.
You know, if you're authentic. Yeah. If you're trying to be a chameleon, you might fool yourself and them, but still it won't be all the time, you know? So I think authenticity, you do you, man. Yeah. And I'm going to do me. And at the end of the day, if you don't like me or it doesn't connect for you, then that's okay. Yeah. Cause we got plenty of friends, you know, I don't need to be liked by everybody anymore. I'm not trying to specifically make people not like me, but I'm not fixating on that. And that includes the competition part of it. I'm like, I like golf a lot too. And I'm hopeful that I'm going to be able to get into a season of life now where I can get back into that. But that I don't, for sure. 100%. I like to grind on it. I like to go to the practice range and, dial in balls and just get, really get my weaponry dialed in.
Yeah. I'm the same way, man. I'm a little bit of a gym rat myself when it comes to those elements. And so, I think I get as much fulfillment out of that as I do going and playing, you know?
Me too.
So, I think there's some really cool things that music, what kind of music we listening to?
I'm pretty eclectic. Honestly, I was born in the 60s. And so growing up, I listened to my parents' playlists and I mean, that was everything from Elvis, to, my dad listened to like big band, stuff, from the 40s, and my mom was listening to Cat Stevens and all the cool stuff from, Crosby, Stills and Nash, and just lots of good classic rock and, classic rock. So I love classic rock. I like country. I like Zach Brown, for instance, but, there's a lot of young artists too, I'll look at Instagram a little bit, and I follow a lot of musicians on Instagram. And I mean, if you saw some of the disparity of the difference between the musical styles and genres that I gravitate towards, I think authenticity again is I like people who have a message and a unique style and way of bringing it. So, but all time favorites, I mean, Doobie Brothers was the first concert I ever went to. I mean, I'm gonna always love the Doobs. Eagles, another band that I love and listen to a lot. Country music, I listen to Sirius FM and just put it on Prime Country or Kenny Chesney's Island Radio or whatever, and I like most of that stuff. So how about you?
Oh man, I'm pretty eclectic as well. Like I got everything from like my parents raised me on the 70s music and everything. I'm a 76 baby, so and my parents were very young when they had us, so we kind of were raised together, and I listened to all their music from ELO to
love it.
Michael Jackson, and there was just Prince. It was my mom's favorite forever, right?
Oh, that's awesome.
So but then I also have, like, from my roots, I got like a lot of old school hip hop music that I really loved, and
that's cool.
And then a lot of like alternative grunge music and things like that. And so, but I've said this many times, but now with my kids, I kind of pass that same music bug to them, and we play a game where we pass the phone around to each other, and there's 4 of us, me and my 2 boys and my wife, and you get 2 songs and you get 2 songs and you get 2 songs, and so we all get to appreciate what everyone likes.
That's a cool game. I like that.
Yeah.
My guys are in their one's 19, one's 21.
Yep.
And it's hard to get them together in the summer, but when we do, I'm going to try that game. I like that.
It's really cool. I do it on road trips. I'll do it like when we're out just sitting around the fire or whatever, and they call it aux, right? I don't know why they call it aux anymore, because there's no more aux cable, but it's really the Bluetooth. But
that's awesome.
Well, I need aux, and so it's like, hey, we're playing the game, and so it's like 2, 2, 2, and 2, and then I'll ask them questions about, what do you like about this, or because even hearing you talk about your music, is it voice? Is it messaging? Is it the beat of the music? Like, there's something in there that really starts to grab people, and they'll find out, oh, if I get something that it hits on this note right here, first, those are the things that I start to gravitate towards, whatever. So I want to hear what they think about it. I want to, are they listening to the message behind it? Does it mean something to them? And I don't want to just dismiss it because it's not my generation's music, because there's some good stuff that I really like inside of it,
Oh, absolutely.
But I also want my kids to love my music the same way. And it's like, this one meant so much to me. Let me share this with you.
Yeah.
And if they treated us the way that we treat them with their music, it would be so disheartening for us. It's like, let me tell you about a Journey, man. It was so great. Let me tell you about the Beatles. And they're like, man, you boomer, get out of here. You know what I mean? It'd be like, that would be so disheartening for us, because it meant something for us in our life.
Yep.
So that respect factor of 2, 2, 2, and 2 and 2,
I love it. That's cool.
Allows you to get a couple out before it goes in a circle a couple times.
From my era, rap music just was lost on me initially, and I'm not like a regular listener of it, but I can appreciate mastery, really, and mastery of the lyrics, of the beat, the rhythm, the message. Yeah. And I remember, I don't know exactly when the moment was that I kind of sat and listened to Marshall Mathers, Eminem. But I listened to a few of his songs, and I think I ended up buying a couple more and listening like for an hour, just solid. And I just came away from that going, I think I went to my wife and I go, this dude's a genius.
That's exactly
this guy's
right.
an absolute freaking genius,
Yep.
And at that point, and I was like, okay, I'm not going to just automatically jettison a genre because whatever, because it wasn't around when I was coming up. So like you, I'm very, very eclectic.
I'll challenge you with there's a guy named Kid Cudi. Look him up.
Check him out.
Yeah, check him out. He's a genius as well when it comes to music. I mean, he's just ahead of his time,
All right.
So
I like it.
You get, last question.
Yeah.
You get 2 people alive to bring to dinner. Who are those 2 people?
2 people alive?
Yeah.
Geez, man.
And why?
Well, I was thinking Donnie T. might be interesting. We probably just lost half of our listeners now, but I think Donald would be interesting because right now he's the guy on the hot seat. Like him, hate him, voted for him, didn't vote for him. He's the guy in there now, and just to pick his brain, because nobody has real news, right? We're all victims
fake news
of
from
fake
one side
news.
or the other.
Don't care whether you listen to Fox or whether you listen to CNBC or something in between. You're not getting the full story. There's no more truth in news.
Who's paying for that support?
Everybody's got spin, and so that's the fact. And just if and by the way, I'll put an asterisk by it. And he has to be candid, right? So we can have a real convo. I would love to hear about what's really going on in Ukraine. What does he really think about Putin? What are we going to really do? With this potential war situation. I mean, because we're living in crazy times, guys. There's no doubt about it. And this is a very unique and lively time to be on this planet. There's a lot going on, and I think that guy's in the middle of a lot of it, whether you like him or don't. So that would be one. And another one, probably, oh gosh, what's this kid's name, man? I'm drawing a blank on his name, but he's like the real life, he's like a superhero. This guy's like maybe he's 29, 30 years old right now. I just became aware of him. I mean, I think he's been around for quite a while, but he's a weapons manufacturer.
Okay.
And he has basically gone outside of the normal channel of being a weapons manufacturer. And he's created, pilotless jets and these incredibly high powered drones, robots. And the thing is he looks at it from a deterrent perspective. If we, if we have the proper deterrence, then we can basically close off, war in a way, right? We deter war from starting. And I'm sad to say that I cannot remember this guy's name, but he's like Iron Man.
Okay.
I'll send it to you. Maybe you can share it with your listeners next time. Because I'll think of it. It's the second that I get
on the road.
But that guy's I listened literally to an hour-long video on YouTube about him and listen to him talk about the things that he's doing and why he's doing it. He's the guy that invented the virtual reality headset.
Oh, the Oculus.
Yeah, he was a billionaire, I think, or worth hundreds of millions of dollars when he was like 22 years old. So he invented Oculus. This was like something that, and so he's got an incredible gift of engineering and vision, and just a really, really neat guy. He's bringing a lot of jobs back to the United States. I think he employs, maybe just a little south of 10,000 employees. He's building, huge manufacturing plants in South Carolina. I'm talking maybe 100 acre. I mean, like acreage, massive acreage of manufacturing. So, just from that perspective, that guy was really cool.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, that'd be I'd love to be a fly on the wall on that one. So yeah,
I think for sure.
Well, man, I tell you what, man, it's been a great conversation with you. I really appreciate how honest and how raw you've been in a lot of this conversation without having to, and so I hope that there's some people out there that have heard some of these parts of the stories and they resonate with that as well. So, man, I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Brandon. Appreciate you.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, man.
Well, everybody, until next time, that's the Blueprint.